Hello and welcome to the sideboard here at Star City Games Baltimore. My name is Ruben Bressler and I am joined by, what's your name?
Bard Narson.
Bard Narson.
That's correct.
And Brad, I'm sorry, I have to actually tell you, it's Brad Nelson.
I don't know this
writer,
name. Okay.
2010 Player of the Year, recently top 4 Grand Prix Miami, among other accomplishments.
Let's talk about the accomplishment that I made last time I was here.
Oh, and also defending SCG Baltimore's Standard Open champion with what deck?
Junk Aristocrats.
And what are you playing today?
Junk Aristocrats.
So here's the updated version of Junk Aristocrats. Now, there's a couple of big changes that you've made to this deck.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, you wrote an article that you hadn't figured out the format, and it took something a little bit crazy and a little bit out of the box to figure it out.
I mean, I think this deck list is very good. I think there's a lot of kinks in it. I would suggest not going all in on it until Friday. I'm going to write or do a video on it next Friday because I really do like it, but there's a lot of issues that I'm still getting the kinks out of.
Sure, so for Star City Games Cincinnati, it'll be just in time for the FNM before then and for Cincy, which I'll be playing in. Yeah. So I might need to read that article as well. So the changes we're talking about, if you're looking at the deck list, one of the major factors of old Junk Aristocrats was it didn't have creatures that had huge power, naturally. It had 2/2s and 1/1s, and that was about it. In this deck, we have a slightly different story. We have Loxodon Smiter and Desecration Demon in the main deck. So let's talk about both of those cards. We'll start with Smiter. Loxodon Smiter is a card that sort of popped up in a little bit of popularity because of the red-green aggro deck. Is that the main purpose for it?
That is exactly the main reason for it. Smiter has generally been a bad card in the format since it was so much mid-range and very little control for about a year now. But currently, because of the red-green aggro deck, or excuse me, green-red, Domray deck, that Kibler made popular.
It's called Aggro Crag.
Aggro Crag? All right, Aggro Crag, I'm not going to say that again.
Fine.
Lingering Souls is terrible against them. They have Thundermaw if you flash back your Lingering Souls. If you keep the half in the Griever, they have Scavengers to eat it. It's just all in all a bad card in the matchup. And so I wanted one of the best cards in that matchup in my sideboard, which was Unflinching Courage. But you don't have enough bodies in Junk Aristocrats to actually just always put it on. Like I've strapped a High Priest with Unflinching Courage before. It's not that great. So I just wanted some more power. And with that, you get some sweet plays of scavenging onto your guys for power. And in the mid-range matchups, it's a board out. But because I thought that green-red was going to be so popular, I'm playing that guy. Demon was some sweet tech from the last Open that's very good against Jund and the mid-range decks, and black-green is one of your roughest matchups. So having this big, powerful creature that gets around Mutilate is really good for the deck.
Yeah, and the other thing about Desecration Demon is that this is a deck that now can play a non-Aristocrats game. You can just play a mid-range game where you just play a voice on turn 2, then play big guys for a couple of turns and attack people.
Yeah, one of the sweetest things about this deck that I've realized, recently, is that Skrzdeg High Priest, along with Smiter, is a very bad combo. The deck now gets very schizophrenic draws, where I'll draw half the Aristocrat stuff and half the beatdown. Right. But because High Priest is such a issue, people that are just immediately afraid of it. They think I'm going to make a 5/5. Regardless of if I can or not, my opponent will take their turn killing it. So it allows me to play a 2-drop. They have to answer immediately, which there aren't really any out there that do that.
With so many fewer Pillar of Flames in the format especially, it makes both Skrzdeg High Priest and Voice of Resurgence and Doom Traveler, of course, much better because of the lack of pillars. So people are spending their turns using things like Mizium Mortars. Putrefy. Lots of big
Domray. Instead of going for a creature, they fight it, and then I play a Smiter, and they have a really tough time getting back on the board.
Right.
And so the whole equation I have for High Priest now is if I wanted to die, I play it on turn 2. If I wanted to live, I play it on turn 4 or 5. And this deck can do that because you have so many 2-drops. We have so much power that you can stabilize a lot easier without always constantly having to sacrifice resources, because that's what Junk Aristocrats used to do, is just constantly be sacrificing resources to deal with their opponent's stuff until you just had better stuff than they did. And you don't have to do that anymore because you're just going to play big guys. So you can just play a High Priest later in the game and it's still good, because if they don't deal with it now, it's going to be more easy to get active.
Now, in order to make room for some of this new mid-range stuff, we had to make a few cuts.
Yeah.
There are no more Young Wolves. We've also added Avacyn's Pilgrim to the main deck, just as additional mana sources, more bodies for Gavany Township and the like. But we had to make some cuts. Among them, Lingering Souls is... Some of them are in the main, but moved to the sideboard partially. And Garruk Relentless has moved to the sideboard. Why the move for Garruk Relentless out of the main deck into the sideboard?
All right. So the other, the big move, like the big change that I had to make to the deck, and it's very subtle. No fault to your own for not seeing it. But you Aristocrat fans of mine out there will see it.
Wait, hold on. Is it Gavin Town?
It is. Well, that's one of them. I did cut, but that's not the most important thing to me.
What's the most important one?
The 17th Black Source. I had to cut the 17th Black Source, and I hate that I had to do it, but I needed more green due to the Scavenging Oozes and the Smiters just getting more green in the deck.
I would not have caught that one.
No, and I did cut down on Township, but you don't need it because you don't have as many souls. But the reason that I'm only playing 2 Lingering Souls main is because it's not that great against these aggressive decks anymore. I wanted to find room for more Smiters. I get a board in a 3rd Lingering Souls against black-green mid-range and control decks, and the mirror matches or the other Aristocrat matches after sideboard. Garrick's in the sideboard mostly because the format got aggressive again, and it's not that great in the main deck, so I do want to bring it in against Reanimator, John, Blue, White, Red, but it's fine in the sideboard for now. The big card that I've been liking a lot is the 1 Underworld Connections. The thing that I found out about this deck is you can just like not get enough lands for your big spells, since I have a ton of 4-drops that I have after sideboard.
Right, you've got both Garrick and Desecration Demon.
Yep. And you can just like sometimes just run out of resources when your opponent 2-for-1s too many times. So the 1 Underworld Connections has really helped me just keep on curve. And the only way you do that is if you run a low number of reactive cards, or like non-proactive cards, kind of like Appetite for Brains and Duress is what I'm kind of getting at. Because if you run too many cards like that, you're not going to be able to constantly put pressure on your opponent, and that's what you want to do with the connections. Once you have connections, you just want to jam stuff onto the table, force them to react every turn instead of do something proactive, and eventually just succumb to the Underworld Connection.
Right. Now, the other aura that you have in your sideboard is one that's very good against red-green, if you're expecting a lot of red-green this weekend, and one that you can take advantage of now that you have 4 4s and 6 6s in your deck, and that's Armadillo Cloak. I mean, Unflinching Courage.
Yes. Unflinching Courage is where I wanted to be. It was where I was at in Baltimore, and I didn't like it. It was an immediate cut for me, but it's very powerful right now because it does deal with the green-red aggro draws. You get to trample over, hit that Domri. You can race Hellkites. Because if you don't do things like that, they can actually just beat you by attrition because your cards are worse than theirs.
Sure.
So it's been very good for me. And there is a lack of Abrupt Decay right now, but I don't think it's that good of a card. I'm just completely conceding the Hexproof matchup because I don't think it's that popular. I don't think it's that good.
Agreed.
And so because I cut that, I'm playing an ultimate price to come in against Thundermaw, Desecration Demon, Lifebane Zombie.
Right, your sideboard is set up of like pieces that come in against other mid-range decks, pieces that come in against aggro decks, and then you've got a suite of disruption, either discard or elimination. There are 2 Putrifies, but then the 3rd one you didn't want to be a Putrify just because it's a 3-mana elimination spell?
Yeah, because you just have to curve against the aggressive decks.
Right, and against aggressive decks, Ultimate Price is the best for you anyway, because you want to be able to deal with opposing Desecration Demons on top of Hell Rider, Thundermaw, Hellkite.
Even High Priest, like the Naya-based decks or the Loxodon Smiter, Boros Reckoner voice decks aren't that good against you, so it's not that important to make sure that your removal can target them. The only card that I think that I actually would want to kill out of an aggressive Naya deck is the Huntmasters, but the Huntmasters out of Jund aren't as big of a problem, and I also don't want to play that much removal against them.
Sure. So you're doing pretty well in the tournament so far?
I'm 2-1. I lost to Blue-White. I beat Blue-White. It's like one of my worst matchups, or one that I don't want to play, and I've played it twice now.
Sure.
I just want to play against some aggressive decks.
Well, as the tournament goes forward, you've already played 3 matchups that you don't like to play, Blue-White, and The Rock.
Yeah.
So eventually, perhaps you'll play against Jund or something you're more favorite.
I mean, that's how statistics work, right?
I guess.
I think
it
that's
has
how it
to
works.
happen. You can't possibly play anything else.
Of course not.
So as the format evolves, Doom Traveler's gotten better again. And also, Big Doom Traveler, aka Voice of Resurgence, it's a card people forgot about, much along the lines of Dre.
Yeah.
They just forgot that it existed. And so if you're looking for a deck that can play a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 3-drop and have amazing synergies.
And a 4-drop.
And a 4-drop now. Yeah. Don't forget that we have a 4th-drop 6/6, which is possibly the card of the tournament here so far. Brad, good luck going forward.
Thank you. And anyone that likes this deck, or I've even had a lot of fans come out to me and be like, where's the Drunk Aristocrat stuff? There will be some stuff next Friday on probably Above the Curve. I'll talk Glenn into talking about that, as well as my video.
And there's also going to be a small segment in the newsletter next week.
Yes.
That is going to be talking about your Thursday High Priest stuff.
Yes.
Just for folks who are people for the newsletter. Stay tuned for that for more Thursday High Priest.
And I have a video going up, but I don't want to talk about that because Jared kind of destroyed me. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
For Brad Nelson, here at Star City Games Baltimore, I am Ruben Bressler.